What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Bituation Room podcast live. I am your host, Francesca Fiorentini. So happy to have you here. Thanks for joining us. There's a lot to get to today. It's gonna be. I don't know. There's more. It's almost like we elected a fascist, and like I don't really want to talk about him, as you've heard, and as I think we all know. But I think we've got to. So we're going to be talking about the Department of government efficiency that will be run by the richest man in the world. Not really sure if we should take lessons on how to reduce costs from an effing billionaire, but here we are. So we'll talk about that, what that could mean for all of our NPR tote bags. It's quite scary. We are also going to be talking about Donald Trump completely getting away with all of his crimes. Up. And he set it up, and Joe Biden and Merrick Garland helped him to knock it down. So congratulations, deep state. We're going to be talking about all the crimes that Donald Trump is now going to be avoiding any accountability of, because he will be the president in short order. What else is going on? Christ. But hopefully, we can start thinking radically, revolutionarily, because author and professor Roberto Lovato is here. Very excited. Although I think he didn't like me calling him a professor last time, but he is a teacher. He is a creative writing professor, and he's the author of Unforgetting, a memoir of family, migration, gangs, and revolution in the Americas. So I'm excited to talk to him about what things we can learn from Latin American resistance to fascist regimes in the past, but also how we deal with this current moment that we are in, and how we push the boundaries of our radical imaginations. Truly. I know what you're saying. The Democratic Party is not radical. I thought that's why they lost. I know. It was the trans. We're not going to be talking about Nancy Mace, but before we move on, and I bring in my guest, I wanted to let you know that this is only a third of the show. And in fact, on Friday, we had an awesome hour and change of a show, almost 2 hours, in which Iman Abid of the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights came on the show. We talked all about the joint resolution of disapproval, which was this Bernie-led vote to try and block weapons sales to Israel, joined by 18 other senators. We talked about that, the importance of that. We talked about the ICC arrest warrants currently out against Netanyahu and Gallant. I don't give a shit. And we also had, I guess now new friend of the show, R.M. Brown, came on to talk about Matt Gaetz. So if you haven't listened to that episode or seen it, go back and watch it. And if you are here on YouTube, subscribe right now. We are just a few hundred subscribers shy from 100,000. And honestly, it's a small milestone, but it's a big one to me, and it's awesome, and it's important, and I really, really love the community that is here on YouTube. I love the community that is here everywhere. The Frantifa is in many forms. So definitely, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. And if you are listening as a podcast in the future, number one, I'm not going to ask if we make it anymore, because I know we don't. But also, can you give this podcast 5 stars? If everything's ending, the least you could do is just give the show 5 stars on wherever you're listening. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, no other players. So, do that. Thank you in advance. And also, if you really want to help the show out, and you want to get like some solid bonus content, become a patron, patreon.com/bituationroom. You can also become a member on YouTube or Twitch and get the same content. Every Wednesday, we have an hour-long bonus episode, and I have heard the cries to talk about Brazil. So I'm going to talk about Brazil tomorrow. But last week, what did we do? We talked about Elon overstaying his welcome at Mar-a-Lago, and then some sort of unfiltered thoughts of mine about the people who I once admired, who are now saying all we have to do is capitulate to Donald Trump and work with him, and we can work together And I'm reminded of all the conversations I had with Van Jones back in 2016. Yes. You'll also get the Van Jones stories by becoming a patron, patreon.com/bitchuationroom. Thank you guys so much in advance. So many perks, 20% off of merch, discounts on the American Prospect magazine, which I write for every single edition, access to the AMAs. You can tell me who you want to have on the show, all the great things. We try and create a fun community there. And yes, I will be rolling out some book club, and I have to like think through it exactly how we want to run it, and maybe rope in NATO Green to be a part of it. So that will be for patrons, so stay tuned. And with that, let me bring in my comedic guest for the rest of the show. Oh boy, do we need it. He works on the Frankie Quinones Show podcast and is a fabulous stand-up comedian based in LA who has a show, a live taping in Chicago at the Lincoln Lodge on December 6th that you should definitely go to. Please welcome Mr. James Fritz.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. What's up, buddy?
What's up, dude? Tell me about, so wait, December 6th is a what day of the week?
It's a Friday.
Hell yeah. So tell me about your show. You've got you're filming.
It's all crowd work and clowning. So
just crowd work. You're just
crowd
gonna
work and clowning. Clown work, I call it.
Clown work. So that involves inviting people up from the audience and then just like rubbing your genitals on them and calling it art.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Hillary Clinton's gonna be there. She studied in France, if you remember.
Yeah. Chelsea's gonna make an appearance. But no, so Matt and I were at the Lincoln Lodge. It's so much fun. It's such a great room. And you're doing early, late, 8 p.m. and a 10 p.m. What's inspired this hour for you, James?
Time. And a label asked me to do it, so I said yes.
Hell yeah. Everybody.
A Special Thing Records is putting it out, so.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
I love them. If you guys are in the Chicago area, if you came out to see Matt and I, you'll love James. You have to go see him. If you're not already a fan, you'll become one very, very soon. So get tickets. I think there's a link in the description right now. Wherever you're watching or listening, we put a link so you can get tickets.
Or you can look at my wall.
Or you can look at the wall. But if you're listening,
Williams will not be there, but I'll be there.
Damn it. I like those posters. Those are tight. James, thank you for being here. Let's get this show started right. Everyone get your bitch caps on. This is What Are You Bitching About? So James, I'm keeping you in for what we're bitching about because we got a lot to get to. But what are you bitching about today? This Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
I'm bitching about people waiting to buy tickets to shows. Stop it. Buy them ahead of time. I'm trying to quit smoking. And every time I look at the sales,
the ticket link.
Yeah.
You smoke one. So this is, so you're just going to extend your plug into what you're bitching about?
Yeah. This is how you work the internet now. You'll always be plugging. I can't even soothe myself with delicious raw milk anymore.
ABP. Have you ever had raw milk? Like, have you actually lived life?
I'm from Kentucky and I've never taken it straight from the udder. Is that what they mean?
You milked a cow and they were like, son, you definitely don't put that in your mouth.
No, the bucket ain't even clean.
Exactly. The bucket is definitely not clean. The bucket was like collecting rainwater for a while before.
Never wash your bucket, though. It builds immunity.
Jesus Christ. No, I am worried, though, to be frank with you, about like people having money to go support arts and stand-up comedy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we saw like during the American Rescue Plan moment, right? That there, like, people had a little bit more, I think it was called like a kind of like fuck you money, a little bit of like fuck you money. Like they felt
walking around money.
They weren't willing to work the same crap jobs that they had for the same, wage. And they had a little bit of extra cushion and they were, buying things and like things were okay. And the ripple effect in stand-up, especially after the pandemic or whatever, when people were going back outside, was like I feel like people were more willing to spend money on comedy. And now that feels like it's atrophying.
Yeah, it feels like there's like 8 people making actual money right now.
Well,
like people I thought were killing it are just like, it's a really hard time to sell tickets.
Exactly, and all they're doing is, like, putting out reels constantly on
Oh God, I'm
Instagram.
so tired.
Guys, fuck reels, okay? If you see a comic with no reels, that's a real one. They're funny as
The
hell.
real one.
That's
That's
a
right.
real one. REAL, not a REEL. Whatever. It's a good thing to bitch about. Yes, people love to wait to the last minute because they're like, well, there'll be tickets.
Well, I get it because COVID is still around. I think a lot of people are like, "What if I get sick 2 days
That's
before the
true.
show?" But
That's
you won't
true.
get sick. It's not real.
Wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Wear
I'm
two.
yeah,
No
yeah,
one's
yeah.
gonna be laughing anyway. You're not gonna catch anything at my show.
Don't do this to yourself.
I'm
Don't
negging.
undersell it. Okay, well, I'm gonna slide into what I'm bitching about, which is
Go for it.
I mean, number one, I do feel like prestige TV is the reason we can't have revolution because there's just too much good television. I mean, it's all sort of gone bad, but like between House of the Dragon and for me, Shogun, and honestly, the Great British Baking Show, like I'm like, oh, we need to do revolution now, but also is Dylan gonna win, Star Baker? Like, what do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
really it's counterproductive. It's very opiate of the masses. And I'm not even into sports, but like streaming services really are the opiate of the masses.
Oh yeah. Like I'm not even like a comic book guy, but I loved the Penguin. And
Oh
I
my
found myself a
God.
little down that there wasn't a new Penguin. And I was like, what is go out of the house. What are you doing?
I know,
You don't need a
exactly.
new
Go
Penguin.
start some stuff. I'm about to finish I have like the last episode pending. And I'm
Mm.
like, but if I finish this, then I actually have to face reality, which is this country just reelected Donald fucking Trump. And I don't know if I can face that reality.
Oh yeah.
But here we are. I'm also bitching about, look, James,
Mm.
did you know that the UN's climate negotiation process, which whereby we gather leaders of countries from around the world to come together to agree to stop killing the world,
Everything. Yeah.
that process is still going on,
Okay.
and we are at COP 29 now, which means it's been 29 years of not figuring out how to stop climate change, but not really not figuring it out, but not just like people being unwilling. Initially, a lot of the BRIC countries, like, definitely China and India were like, why? We
Mhm.
want to, we want to develop as fast as the United States did. It's really on the US. But then, of course, with the election of Donald Trump in and out of office, everyone's like, shit, no one's in charge in the United States and they've got a massive responsibility. So now apparently China is actually stepping in. But the COP just wrapped up this week in Azerbaijan, which is a massive oil producing company.
Right.
And apparently, I believe that the president of Azerbaijan said something like oil is a gift from God. Uh,
Sure.
and that there were more like not press passes, but there were more like passes to the conference issued to oil and gas lobbyists
Yeah.
than delegates from the global south. So like at some point COP is just going to turn into an oil and gas expo.
Uh-huh.
I think it already is. So that is what I'm bitching about, that like, so, what happened was they walked away with a $300 billion commitment to pay global South countries to not develop basically and to give them money. 300 billion, by the way, is a drop in the bucket from what they were asking for. There was massive walkouts and protests and, the wheels have fully come off this process that like, but it's also just so,
So
um,
it's like a Cybertruck. The wheels have come off.
yeah, exactly, and you
Yeah.
get cut when you try to open it. But, producer Paige and I were talking before the show about how much, like, the COP process and the climate, trying to find some kind of climate negotiation process is like it's like the ceasefire process. It's like the perpetual and or the peace process. It's like,
Right.
we care, but
Mhm.
we're just gonna keep kicking this can
Oh
as
yeah.
far down the road as possible.
They're working day and night on this.
We're working day and night.
Yeah.
But again, like,
Well, they have to extract every last ounce of it before we can do
true.
anything new,
Right. And it's crazy because years ago, people like scientists thought that we would reach peak oil a lot sooner. And everyone was like, oh, don't worry, we're going to reach peak oil. We have to go to renewables. And then it was like, oh no, there's a lot more oil and a lot more more like, whatever, Arctic animals have to be, bludgeoned for our greed.
Yeah, we have to frack the whole planet.
We have to frack the entire planet.
Yeah.
Natural gas, I mean, whatever. What's the like proper term for natural gas? I'm not supposed to call it natural. I'm supposed to call it like
Poison.
Extras. Yeah, poison gas. But according to a survey of scientists who contribute to the International Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, again, the IPCC that oversees the COPs, most think that the goal of keeping the degrees of warming to less than 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit is like completely out of reach. So yeah.
Yeah, people are like, you don't even have kids. Why do you care? And I'm like, well, I get cranky when it's hot.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like this weather either. It doesn't matter.
Well, I just think that, I just think that it's like raising hopeless generations.
Yeah.
Is really bad. Like once you hear, whether or not you have kids, once you hear like a 5-year-old be like, oh, because the world is ending, like
right.
A part of you will never be the same.
Right. You're not supposed to be there yet.
No, exactly. Hang on, honey. That takes you got 30 more years in you before you give up on life.
Yeah, I had to wait till grunge.
First of all, don't get me started about grunge. I feel like the reason we have Nazis is because grunge really was destroyed. Like grunge was killed, like the electric car was killed, and grunge really helped us. Let's move on. But before we do, I'm going to do a quick little plug here. James, these are stressful times. Obviously, sure. Thanksgiving is around the corner. People are going to have to face family members who they would rather not face, which I sort of don't understand that because I'm like, you're an adult, just don't go see them. Right. Don't go see them. But anyway, people want to relax. They want to take a load off. In my case, we want to get to sleep because we got to wake up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for our toddler to scream at us. That's why we turn to Sunset Lake CBD, everybody, the sponsor of the Bitchuation Room, which has right now, guys, an incredible, like, total site-wide sale, 30% off everything. Black Friday came early. It ends December 2nd, but 30% off with coupon code Friday. So orders over 100 gets you a 20-count jar of Relax gummies for free, which like that's huge. Orders over 200 gets you a 20-count jar of Focus gummies also for free. James, I don't know if you know this, but before every Piers Morgan appearance, I will take a Focus gummy.
How can you? That's yeah. I'd have to mainline before I did that show.
Dude, I know. Just it just keeps me humble. No, but just relaxes me. And also, again, there's lion's mane, there's cordyceps. I don't know what it's doing to me, but it's working. So yes, normally if you're listening to this in the future, it's 20% off with Frantifa coupon code. But right now, Friday, 30% off. This is like the time to try this stuff. And James, if you haven't been hooked on it, then I got to get you. I've got a bunch of like.
Oh yeah, I'll come over.
I got a bunch of samples. Come over.
I'll use it for the Piers Morgan in my life.
We'll take Francesca. No. We'll take some Delta 9. We'll chill out. And with that, we got to get to these stories. But first, we have a new segment, James. Since you were last on, actually, because there's inevitably going to be just like. An avalanche. There's already an avalanche of bad news and terrible, heinous things about Donald Trump coming back into the White House. And it's unclear, like, what's the distraction and what's the thing that's happening? Because
flooding the zone, they call it.
They do call it flooding the zone. It all just kind of feels related. So this is our segment that I'm calling. I'm giving us a zone to flood. It will not flood my life. It will flood this one zone, and that zone is called Orange Man Bad. Here we go. Orange Man Bad. This week on Orange Man Bad, Orange Man has promised to kick trans service members out of the military and also to slap a 25% tariff on all imports from Mexico and Canada. That includes produce. So avocado toast might actually cause Gen Z to go broke after all. Like that's what the pundits always wanted. Now you got it. Enjoy your last affordable Thanksgiving meal, everybody. That is this year. Orange Man is also not revealing the donors to his presidential transition fund and has refused to sign an agreement limiting the amount he can raise in so doing, in the transition. So, Russia, if you're listening, we're open for business. Also Azerbaijan, also UAE, also Qatar, also China, also anywhere, really. Orange Man Bad also accepted Matt Gaetz removing his name from being nominated as Attorney General and has replaced him with Pam Bondi of Florida. The two are bosom bribers. Trump bribed Bondi to not investigate Trump University for defrauding students back in 2013. So she's sort of a natural pick. And then Orange Man Bad also picked Russell Vogt, who is one of the architects of Project 2025, to head the White House Office of Budget and Management, which is funny because he already did that. Like, he was there last time. So he's back. And as Orange Man Bad put it himself, so that Russell can, quote, dismantle the deep state and, of course, sell it to the highest bidder. And that was Orange Man Bad, people. Let's ride it out.
I thought you were going to say he appointed Russell Brand to something.
I mean, he should, right?
The office of Isn't It?
Oh my God. Jesus, isn't it? Office of Jesus, isn't it?
The
Sin,
Bible's
isn't it?
weird, isn't it? But I love it.
It's just, oh my God, this guy, Russell, we have to do a whole thing on Russell Brand. So you know what I learned before we move on, you know what I learned about Pam Bondi? And maybe you can join me in screeching about this, is that Donald Trump accepted, paid money to her office to not investigate Trump University. Sure. And apparently, and she didn't. And apparently, Florida wasn't the only state attorney general's office to decide against taking up Trump University matter. This is according to the New York Times. Trump also donated to Kamala Harris while she was the attorney general of California. Yeah. And after reviewing the matter, her office also did not pursue.
How did we lose?
You know?
We're trying our best to be them.
She wants to run again, you know? Exactly. We're just like you. Oh my God. Like, what he would on some troll shit offer Kamala like a spot in the cabinet.
I don't think he ever hated Kamala.
No, he thinks she's beautiful.
Yeah.
He's real in love with her. But anyway, let's get into more shit. So much happened, but only two things. This is the week where. Okay, so this was the week where we are like 95 to 98 to 99% sure that Trump will quite literally never face any consequences for sicking a mob on the Capitol full of, Facebook radicalized dads and
Mr. Show actors.
What?
And Mr. Show actors.
Mr. Show actors, exactly. And like keyboard scarf ladies and like martyrs, obviously.
R.I.P. Heroes. Yeah.
R.I.P. Ashley Babbitt. Because special counsel Jack Smith, who was appointed to investigate this, has basically asked for the judge to drop the case. Now, there's caveats. Some legal scholars are saying, but there's a door left open. Let's look at that door.
We're gonna get him.
We just time out. Look, he might have won the battle, but we'll win the war on ourselves. The judge overseeing Donald Trump's election interference case dismissed the case Monday after special counsel Jack Smith asked the judge, again, this is Tanya Chutkin, to toss the case due to a long-standing Justice Department policy that bars the prosecution of a sitting president. Because, that's democracy. Like, we would, but now he's the most powerful man ever.
I'm shocked that this is how the legal system works in this country.
Wild.
Yeah.
Smith earlier Monday filed a motion to dismiss the case, as well as the appeal of Trump's classified documents case ahead of Trump's impending inauguration due to the DOJ's presidential immunity policy and not because the charges lacked merit. So he was like, these are real, but like I can't go after a president, which somehow makes him a hero. No.
Yeah. Home base. He's on home base.
Right.
Can't tag him.
You exactly.
It's insane.
He touched home. Donald Trump touched home. So Chutkin dismissed the election interference charges against Trump without prejudice, leaving open the highly unlikely possibility of a future prosecution. So that's what without prejudice means. It means, quote, as she wrote, dismissal without prejudice is also consistent with the government's understanding that the immunity afforded a sitting president is temporary, expiring when they leave office. But according to ABC News, that's extremely unlikely that any prosecutor would attempt to bring the same charges in the future, in part because of the statute of limitations for alleged crimes will have expired by the time Trump leaves office in 4 years.
It's good to know that the statute of limitations for a coup expires.
Exactly.
That's cool. I'll file that away.
Well, we're going to talk about Joe Biden and all the crimes he can commit before he leaves office. Before we leave this show. So maybe we'll talk about that then. But like when this happened, James, when January 6th happened, where were you? Like where were you? What were you doing? Do you remember?
I was home. It was still it was still like no
pandemic.
one was working. Yeah. So I was home and just like, this is really happening. This is wild, just in shock, and then on Twitter with everyone else.
Right. So when I meant to pull this video, but I don't have it, but you can go see it on my social media. But I was filming this like random YouTube series for AMC at the time, which was, it was like some offshoot shit. And it was completely not political. But as I was there, I got the notifications and they actually filmed me reacting to it. And I found that footage. And the thing that I said at the time when I saw it was, number one, this is what happens when you soft pedal a white nationalist.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, are we going to have to forget that this happened?
Oh, yeah.
And for a while there, it was like, maybe not, hundreds of people have faced charges over their actions on January 6th. People are serving prison sentences for that. Donald Trump obviously is saying he will, absolve them or release them or whatever, that give him a new hearing, etc. But like, by and large, we will have to forget that this just happened.
Oh yeah, because it was coming just after the George Floyd protest too, the BLM protest, and they made us forget that happened too. I realized we were screwed the second they made it all just about how scared they were personally during that day.
Right.
I'm like, this isn't about some bigger thing. This isn't about like civil unrest. This isn't like, how could we get here as a nation? It's about, the people in power were a little scared for a day about violence in their workplace, which tell me about that.
Right.
I work out of school now. We have drills.
Absolutely. 100. No, that's exactly right. It's because the violence that he had been stoking for 4 years and longer finally came for them, that they were like, oh shit, we need to take it seriously. And they still couldn't even do that. We know that Merrick Garland slow walked this for many dumbass reasons. And, he could have faced some music before. I'm not saying, but ultimately the entire political establishment, forget Republicans, but the sort of the DOJ, the deep state, effectively, that needs to be gutted. Don't worry, the deep state has done fucking gutted itself. The deep state has taken a fish hook to its stomach and is like, I die, I forfeit. Because that's effectively what this was. It was the Department of Justice being unable, and Congress being unable, to hold Donald Trump, the guy who did this. Because here's the thing. If Donald Trump doesn't get held accountable, I don't think that the people who did shit that day should be either.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like, you need to go after the low level people. Let's go after the actual one who's.
But we never do that with crimes in this country,
100%. And so, this is my whole thing whenever like resistance libs put their faith in the fucking justice system, or in the case of Russia, which I do, there was collusion. I'm not going to go Maddow about it. But the fact that you're like, oh, Robert Mueller's going to save us. Robert Mueller is a fucking former FBI head, career Republican. The dude found all this evidence and was like, but at the end of the day, it's a sitting president. Shut the fuck up. I'm so mad.
Yeah, they're also they're the party that the Democrats have to abide by every rule and norm. Yeah. For the sake of unity and
what would the Senate parliamentarian say?
Right. and then
and
act
that's
like
the
we're a
other thing.
fucking democracy. Excuse me. Sorry.
No. I was like, you know what? We should stop swearing because of the YouTube algorithm. And then I like immediately dropped that. But no,
I often want, and then you see like Brazil and like what they're doing to Bolsonaro, and like they're investigating. You know, they're gonna make him pay because Lula doesn't play around like
I know,
the
man.
Democratic Party does. Yeah.
Exactly. I
I
mean, like,
sometimes wonder if Mike Pence hadn't stepped up and agreed to the coup, and it had gone farther, if we wouldn't have Trump this time.
what do you mean? Like, if they had been successful?
Yeah, because Pence didn't want to go through with it. That's why the
Right.
whole like hang Mike Pence thing was
Right.
going on. If he had like played ball and it had gotten worse, then maybe
Sure.
Trump would have had to answer for this, and we wouldn't have him now.
Right. Exactly.
That's the attaboy.
No, I like that. I mean, look, I take it all the way back to the year 2000, but we could rewrite 2021 as well.
100%.
The other
you
thing,
mean the successful coup?
yes, yeah, exactly. The successful Bush coup. But that the architects of whom are now in the Supreme Court. But
Sure.
anyway, Democrats are definitely going to have a plan in 4 years. So the documents case is the other thing. I love the documents case because this was the one where Trump just like wanted to keep souvenirs and love letters from Kim Jong-un and also shit he could use to sell to like anyone who comes to Mar-a-Lago, And he obviously these are documents he kept in his bathroom and whatnot. And the ones that like, the
He's sentimental.
Oh my God, he just like, is that a crime? Is it a crime to keep your old cards?
You're gonna confiscate my mommy's scrapbooks. Come on.
Exactly. Well, these are the documents, right? There was the raid on Mar-a-Lago because he was told, like, by the National Archives, which I guess has some bite there, that like you need to you got to return these.
Yeah.
This obviously got
like
passed
militaristic librarians. Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. That got passed, obviously, to a Trump-appointed judge, Eileen Cannon, who said that the entire appointment of a special prosecutor to look into this case was illegal on its face. So blah, blah, blah. The documents case is also being dismissed. Smith moved to dismiss the appeals of the charges against Trump because he was in the middle of appealing it. Trump pled not guilty to 40 criminal counts related to handling of classified materials after leaving the White House. After, again, Eileen Cannon dismissed the case in July over her finding that Smith was improperly appointed in his role. And part of this is also like, maybe Smith is trying to save his ass because he knows that Trump is going to go after him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
A lot of people are in ass saving mode, I would say, most definitely.
100%. Yeah. I mean, if anyone from the Trump team is like combing Bituation Room for like how I think Trump is really sexy and I want everyone to know like he's
hot.
Like, he's super hot.
Swole.
He's got a 6-pack. He's got like a 12-pack actually.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like the little like
the
C-word gutters I can't say. He's got like
crime gutters.
Yeah, crime. He's got the crime gutters on either side. So I've never said anything bad about Donald Trump. He's an alpha man.
I hate Joe Biden too.
Yeah. Oh, we super hate Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So again, that is been dismissed. My favorite part of that, speaking of lower level lackeys, is that Smith also asked the judge in Trump's classified documents case that his appeal against Trump's two co-defendants in that case, Walt Nada and Carlos de Oliveira, be allowed to continue, meaning he wants to hold someone accountable.
Yeah.
He's going to still hold the poor sods who went along with the Trump classified documents.
This is literally the opposite of every like heroic law movie where they get the lower people to flip to take down the main guy.
Right, but they never actually take down. Like, it's just the most anticlimactic fucking episode of Law and Order or whatever. I don't know how the episodes of Law and Order go, but I assume at some point, they get the. See, I only watch good TV. So many shots fired. But let's move on. We have to bring in our guest. We're going to talk about Doge in a little bit because it's exciting. I'm sure we're all very excited for more efficiency in government. But let's get to the sitch, which is what the hell are we doing? What is this new world order that we are living in? And joining me for it, let me find He's an award-winning journalist, a professor of creative writing, and author of Unforgetting, a memoir of family migration, gangs, and revolution in the Americas that everyone should watch. I mean, watch? Why did I say watch? Is it going to be a documentary? Please welcome Roberto Lovato. Hi. Oh, unmute yourself.
Sorry. Hello. How are you all doing today? Thank you for having me.
So good to have you. I do think everyone, this is James, and I think everyone should read. I actually listened to you reading your own book, Unforgetting, a memoir of family migration, gangs, and revolution. It's so good. Still good. Roberto, you know, I really wanted to have you on because you, I think, you are definitely a radical thinker, a revolutionary thinker, and I think you're unafraid to obviously not only call the Democrats out on their failures, but also be able to sort of help us think through this next period in this country's history, and also what we need to really fight what is coming down the pike. That's a lot I'm throwing at you, but I guess I just wanted to. How are you post-election? 3 weeks now. Where do you stand on the whole why Trump won, why Democrats lost? Is it about the wokeism?
Well, first of all, I have a bald head, but it's not a crystal ball to be able to answer these heavy questions you're throwing at me. So I just want to, firstly, again, thank you. I want to manage expectations.
Sure. Oh yeah, no. I mean, we are taking notes, but like whatever.
And by the way, my book was actually they optioned it to be a TV series, and then some producers I was involved with who bought the rights turned out to be kind of racist. So
No.
we're not going to do that. Hollywood, I've learned a little bit about Hollywood in the process, and
there's no racists here.
Take the sacredness of my story. And
they were like, we need more gang violence.
Yeah, no, that's another segment. But to your question about the tea leaves of what happened in the election, I think we're still trying to sort it out. But my own view is the long view, the view of history, of the angel of history, that people like a guy named Walter Benjamin talking about, where the angel of history is dragging progress. And it's constantly dragging, and progress drags with it constant destruction. And so rather than see this as a new moment, I take more historical, and also I look to indigenous and other peoples of the South, some of whom I've struggled with, like in Latin America. And I think we need to see a continuum of history and look at this. I wouldn't waste my time looking at how did Latino men vote? Why, all these people like David Corn, the very kind of sad commentary he made about Latino men, and saying that, wow, now watch, immigrants are going to get what they deserve. As if working class people weren't abandoned by the Democratic Party, as if David Corn and liberal progressives have not entirely left Latinx people out of the liberal progressive tent. But now that their project, liberal progressivism, has failed once again, then hey, who do we scapegoat? Muslim dudes, people in Palestine, Latino men. I mean, it's kind of the liberal scapegoating version of what Trump does, in a more virulent, more nakedly virulent. I think so. Our choice is not just between the lesser of two evils, but it's the subtle, it's the naked virulence versus the subtle virulence of, say, Barack Obama on immigration. That, Obama, as early as 2011, as I and others documented, was jailing, separating, and killing Central American children and mothers by the thousands. Yes, thousands. I have the receipts. And so we have, I see, instead of looking at like I look at the elections and how people voted in different regions, different places, but I don't put my faith there. I don't put my hope there. I gave that up long ago. As you know from reading my book, I took a turn towards a revolutionary outlook on social change, because at this point, the Democratic Party is an adjunct to fascistic capitalism. And so the other adjunct is the Republican Party that global capitalism is more than willing to embrace.
Yeah.
One other thing I would say is that I would look at what's happening in the United States as part of this global disease that's happening, that's infecting worldwide. And that's
It's called Steve
connecting
Bannon's
not-
pockmarks, but also, yes.
Yeah. So I wouldn't encourage people to waste their time looking at, posters and things like this right now at this point. We really have to look at the crisis of legitimacy of the liberal progressive project, which I think has been defunct and been a fucking zombie, is like anything of those shows that you really like, The Walking Dead and stuff. I mean, they've been Walking Dead for a while. Why do we keep watching and supporting them?
What you just said, the crisis of legitimacy, is something that, we just spoke to in the previous segment around even these like institutions of justice being unable to hold their own accountable, almost not by flaw, but by design. There are so many norms that are just norms. They are not laws. And even when they are laws, you cannot even enforce them. And as we said, not that Brazil is, incredible on all fronts, but like did bar successfully Bolsonaro from running for re-election for 8 years. And so that crisis of legitimacy is being felt so much that I've been saying, we should really let this moment radicalize us. But I want to ask you, like, how do we deal with these feelings of like numbness and anger and despair? Like, how do we navigate that while we're also bracing for very concrete attacks on us, our communities, our speech, whatever it is?
Well, if I had the answer to that, I'd be a richer man.
Be a therapist.
University professor's salary. But that said, what I'm doing personally and what I encourage my students and people to do is, firstly and foremost, you have to embrace reality. We're here because of the abandonment of reality by the society at large. Fascism, contrary to MSNBC, is a bipartisan project at this point in history. If you look at, say, for example, the genocide in Palestine, you've been watching in real time the slaughter of a people. That's unprecedented in history. Genocide isn't, but the watching it in real time is. And the cultural effects of having a society conditioned to embrace and accept genocide is, there has precedents in the industrial age and the rise of, film in Germany and stuff, but nothing like the real-time streaming of genocide, and the cultural, moral, psychic effects are deep. So we have to kind of look at reality, but like Perseus, and trying to, we have this Medusa-like figure. I don't want to, it's a misogynistic trope and myth, but it's useful in terms of having a mirror that Perseus had to be able to slew the Medusa. You can't look at reality right now the way it's being given to you and fed to you by the corporate media at this point. The corporate media has proven itself completely complicit, not just with genocide, but with the mass dumbing down of the society, with the acceptance of fascistic immigration policies like those fostered by Obama, continued by Trump, continued by Biden, and now going to be expanded by Trump. So it's a continuum of bipartisan enabling of the fascist project that the Saudis, that banking interests, that Pfizer, that all these corporate interests are more than willing to accept, as long as their bottom line is met. Trump means the elites are willing to accept fascism. They will never tell you that. But we need to psychically and intellectually frame this, because, I'll just tell a story, like from the book, where I was dealing with Central American children who were caged and separated by Obama. One kid I remember in particular had seen his uncle's brains through his teeth because he got shot. A child of 6 years old. So I was working with a psychologist and asking them, hey, how do you deal with a child that's been exposed to this? And And so the psychologist told me something I think is relevant for all of us right now, and that's that you always have to remember that there's an indestructible part of you. Your streaming television will not tell you about this. Your schools won't tell you about this. Your politicians will not tell you about this because they want you pliable and dominated and cowering in fear. But there is, in fact, a part of us. I know this from having experienced war and having dealt with children and mothers and families who've seen what I can only call apocalyptic reality that leaves anything we're dealing with right now in McDonald's, because it's
yeah.
So when you're dealing with that, the psychologists in treating that children and other people like them told me that what they do is they help them tell stories about themselves that are connected to that indestructible side of themselves. That's the place, I think, to begin and end with, if you're going to really, really try to continue practicing what I call sustainable struggle. We have to think not just about a sustainable environment, but a sustainable internal environment, sustainable struggle that's connected then to other people in a sustainable struggle for a more sustainable planet. We haven't been trained or conditioned to understand what we're dealing with. And I think I hate to these apocalyptic shows, but they're really, I think, doing more damage than good at this point, because they disarm the imagination to trying to find solutions to real serious shit. What are our kids gonna face? What do I tell my kids?
They normalize it. They're like, oh, okay, yeah. So, democracies have fallen, countries have collapsed. Though there's already been like a World War III and IV, and we're in this dystopian. And every, and sort of entertainment wise, it conditions you to be like, we're all just sitting here waiting for the collapse, as if we don't have a role to play, as if we are not actors, as if we don't have agency. And so there is this fatalism and cynicism that I think leads to electing strong men. Obviously, only in name, but strongmen like Donald Trump, or like in El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, or, these cynical turns in Argentina voting for, Javier Milei, who is a model right now for the Trump administration, that I wanted to ask you about also, because Javier Milei is destroying the social welfare state of Argentina. The only thing that kept it from being plunged into like deep, many people in the middle class, plunging them into poverty, getting rid of institutions like the funding for public universities, which truly made the country prestigious in Latin America, because many people from all over, especially South America, would go to Buenos Aires and study at the UBA. And it also was a leg out of, not out of, but a solid middle class kind of existence. And he's destroying that. And now you have, we're going to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, who are like salivating to do the exact same to this country. So anyway, I'm just interjecting there. But there's also resistance that we can learn, strategies of resistance from Latin America that we can also learn.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're bringing that up, because again, you're not going to get that on Rachel Maddow, who, wrote a book, managed to, just the deep intellectual work to write a book about fascism that barely touches upon capitalism, one of the pillars of which fascism is the maximum expression. This is the kind of like enabling function that the liberal progressive project plays for fascism. It is not a contrary to it, it is an enabler. And the degree to which we are clear about that and abandon the project for something yet to be created, except in the mind and in the heart, is the degree to which we will start kind of being able to think outside of the boxes of neoliberal capitalism and techno-networked fascism. So, when you mentioned Milei, I was just in Argentina in the summer and South America. And yes, I saw the university, I visited universities, I talked with journalists, everywhere I would go, there would be people who were being displaced by the budget cuts and stuff. But everywhere I went, there were also protests. They were also
Right.
organizing.
Right.
They were also chanting, singing, being together in struggle.
Mhm.
The Americas, indigenous people in the Americas, indigenous people around the world have had to deal with, I would say, apocalypse for a very long time. But to some of us, this reality is now coming home to roost because what they're doing in Argentina, they're now going to do and are doing to the
Mhm.
state of the United States.
Yeah.
They're dismantling. Project 2025 is just an accelerated version of what Biden, Obama, Clinton, Bush, Reagan
Oh,
were doing
definitely.
with the dismantling of the welfare state.
Mhm.
We forget that to our detriment.
Yeah.
Again, I wish we had a Democratic Party that was more like what it was in the 40s, in the industrial age, or before that, when there was a counterbalance to the billionaire class.
Yeah.
So, like, and I'm here in San Francisco right now, and I think we need to look at our local communities to start rebuilding.
Yeah.
And in San Francisco, the techno-fascist turn was clear to me with London Breed, with previous mayors who were expressions of the, the STEM hegemony that's
Yeah.
destroying university campuses, that has destroyed my home neighborhood of the Mission, made it one of the most expensive and desired places in the United States, that has completely altered all of our lives in Los Angeles, New York, wherever you are, you're dealing with the STEMification of your life. And as people like Malcolm Harris, my friend, who wrote a book on Palo Alto, which I recommend you read.
Yes, we've been meaning to get Malcolm on.
You can see the way that inherent in this technology is an ideology that will tilt fascistic.
Yeah.
I don't have the time right now to really break down how that works. But let us just say, just look at San Francisco streets, accelerated displacement, accelerated concentration of wealth, accelerated speeds, 5G, 6G, 7G, all those processes of speeding things up go together. And so
Yeah.
now we're going to see sped up fascism, and the only thing that can counter it is a sped up, networked kind of broad front against fascism that's global, I think, that
Right.
connects us to the global.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back a little bit, because in terms of like what I know, I mean, I do want to ask about El Salvador a little bit, and like just the kinds of repression that we've seen there, and also are seeing currently. But in terms of, just before we leave Argentina, what is so important, the moment I think we are going through in this country, because I do think that the United States mirrors Latin America, is basically living in the future and the past when it comes to the United States. We have to understand that they are far more in the future when it comes to resistance strategies and, like putting up politicians that are actually kind of worth their salt, although not always. And then also in the past, in some ways, in maybe, I don't know, just like basic development and whatnot, which is good if you're thinking about like slowing climate change. But when it comes to neoliberalism in Argentina, that is where neoliberalism died in so many ways, obviously because of the failures in the year 2000, 2001, going through 8 presidents in 1 week, and the fact that all the privatization of their entire lives meant that they had nothing. They had no national industry. These vulture capitalists could come in, make a buck, and then they left in their time of need. Everyone's bank accounts were frozen. And when they were unfrozen, your money was worth a third of what it was worth. So it plunged the country into poverty. And it spelled, radical change. And there was new leadership, but that leadership atrophied. And that leadership was unable to actually grow and truly provide for people. And so then they sort of swung back in the other direction, and ergo, you're Javier Milei. But so we are in this pendulum swing. And I do think we're going through right now this real understanding in the United States that the neoliberalism is dead, and the neoliberal parties like the Democratic Party are truly on death's door. And I've said openly, I'm not willing to say, like, I'm not sure how I feel about the Democratic Party. I don't know if they are actually ever coming back from this. And I
Well,
do hope.
they refuse to even change one person in leadership. So,
Right.
they refuse to change.
They refuse. They keep on listening to fucking, James Carville, and to their detriment. And they don't see that actually it's social movements, whether it was the anti-Iraq war movement that led to Barack Obama in the first effing place, whether it's the BLM movement that even got Biden elected, along with the Bernie movement that helped get Biden elected. You have everything to thank for social movements. I mean,
No, but instead they blame those movements when they abandon them and lose.
Exactly. And so this is the broader tension of the energy is so clear. For the right, the energy is clear. It's the anti-vax crazies. It's the QAnon, pedophile obsessed, nut jobs. And then the left, it is also clear, right? It's just that this massive majority of people that want an end to genocide, that want universal health care, that want housing as a human right, all of these things, we are not listened to. And so it's like we are in this moment of, like you said, Lovato, a crisis of legitimacy. And so we have,
threatens their capital.
Right. Exactly. It's that they know they can never go there. And so I'm just like, I'm responding to that. And also I did want to ask you because, MAGA loves Nayib Bukele of El Salvador. They are obsessed with him because he is doing all these sweeps on the streets and mass arresting people. And I know Salvadorans are very divided. There are people who love it. It feels safer in the immediate. But in the long run, you can only imagine what the kind of like grand incarceration state could mean for, future gang violence, safety, breaking apart families. But I do think that we're going to see some of that. We're going to see levels of repression that I don't think we've seen in this country. At least we're used to exporting it to the country your family hails from, Lovato. So I guess I wanted to your thoughts on this kind of repression.
Yeah, I wrote my book Unforgetting because I wrote it as a book towards the future, and I'm a U.S. citizen, born here in San Francisco in the Mission District, working class kid, and for 25 years I held a secret in my under my shirt, and that's what my heart was out of a revolutionary. I had joined a revolutionary movement to fight a fascist military dictatorship, the longest standing fascist military dictatorship in the Americas in El Salvador for like 90 years. So I felt like I saw the winds with Obama separating children. And then I saw the winds get stronger with the first Trump. And I decided, well, I better come out of the closet about that R word that's on the cover of my book, Revolucion.
Yeah.
Because that's a word, it's kind of like, Star Wars Jedi knowledge at this point. We don't even talk about that. We don't even talk about what is this hallowed tradition that has so many have sacrificed so much of themselves, their families, and even their lives for revolution. What does that mean? And I realized I don't know where things are going to end up, but I want my contribution to be like, I don't know, I feel like those Christians who at the time when the empire in the age of Constantine in the 4th century, the Roman Catholic Empire of the West was united with the Byzantine Empire. These Christians who were really into the word and wanted to preserve what was most sacred went into the desert. They're called the desert fathers and mothers. And I felt like, shit, I better put my kind of stake in the sand by preserving what is most sacred in the realm of political change, which for me is revolutionary thought and practice. And
but I mean, we don't, and we're so out of practice, but also like, do we need an FMLN here in the United States? I mean, not the FMLN, but
I don't know about the FMLN because the FMLN, as you read the book, kind of
it's very different.
But it's a very different. I tried to preserve the FMLN that I knew, which was the kind of like the Jedi Knights that I learned from people that were trained in Vietnam by the greatest political military strategists in world history, probably General Giap and his generals. And they taught my friends, for example, that when you're fighting war and in politics, the fight is mainly not about the guns or killing and anything. It's about the spirit. It's about the psychology.
Yeah.
Like if I can disarm you, without firing a shot. That's the best thing. You can read that in Sun Tzu. But the Vietnamese showed my comrades at the time that, you have to disanimate your adversary. You have to lower their morale to the lowest possible place. You got to make them Democrats. And then you have a population in between that you either want aligned with you or you want it aligned with you or to be neutral. And you have your own troops. How do you want your own troops to be? You want their animus to be as high as possible. So we can learn from that. And Latin America is a great example. In El Salvador, we're starting to see Bukele's numbers fall, right? They're starting to see movement, protests again. Thank God and goodness and Marx. And, I think that we are going to face greater repression. I think short term, we need to look at things in the Pentagon in particular, and with something called the Posse Comitatus Act. And I guarantee you Trump and his people are already trying to figure out how to violate. The Posse Comitatus Act prevents the military from operating within the borders of the United States.
Right.
Yep.
We have to have a powerful social movement to repudiate that.
Right.
And to forcefully repudiate that, to create political space for ourselves. Right now, the work is to have the animus personally and then collectively to create the political space we need to be able to operate and grow the sustainable movements that will carry us into the future.
Yes.
We also have to, I think, simultaneously kind of like really work, I'm encouraging my students, hey, dust off, turn off your video games about the end of the world and apocalyptic scenarios and all that. Your world is a fucking video game right now. Yeah. And you have a chance to be a hero, even if things don't work out the way you want, because things are never going to work out the way you want. But if you're going to teach your kids something, teach your kid to fight and to have dignity and to be as fearless as fucking possible. Look at the right. Look at the way the right is animated, the Christian fascist with millenarian consciousness about the end of the world, where militaristic cops, military mindset, or the neoliberal lust like pigs for more money. We have to have something of a millenarian sensibility, a spirit that's going to guide us clarissimo without blinking into the future. Fear, loathing, grief, all that stuff is the national security state whispering in your ear saying, you can do nothing.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's so spot on. I think that cynicism is allowing the state to win. It's allowing the machinery to win and take you. And I will say, like, I am of the belief that, that the repression is such, even for peaceful demonstrators, that like matching this violence with violence is not a winning strategy. I know we're not talking about that, but I mean, there was like a, guerrilla formation of the FMLN. I just think about that a lot, because I think about how easily we would be repressed and murdered. We talked about January 6th. If those were Black Lives Matter protesters, unarmed, they would have been massacred on the spot. There would have been at least a dozen people killed, if not more.
I mean, we live in democratic LA, where they just parked a tank at a gas station on Los Feliz Boulevard during a peaceful march.
Exactly.
It reminded me of the LA riots. And I think it's funny. I just taught my students yesterday a module on my old late friend, Mike Davis. People called Mike a prophet of doom, quote unquote. Mike was hands down one of the most brilliant people I will ever meet. He had a brain on either side of his head, memory, photographic memory, and was just a lover of facts and research. And he brought complexity to the complex city of LA. He taught us the way capital moves, international and national and local capital combine in things like the real estate empires built in all of our cities. You know who they are. Just look behind those people. They include Donald Trump. I mean, there's a line that runs actually on immigration, on Silicon Valley, in Hollywood, and in real estate to Donald Trump in California.
Yep.
So we have to really start being, I think, a lot smarter than the kind of Rachel Maddow-esque analysis of fascism that forgets to mention
capitalism.
It's one guy.
Yeah, it's a guy. He Mr. Fascism.
Yeah.
But I think what you're naming is this: there's a letting go of a belief that someone is coming to save us, that the institutions we thought were stronger were going to help us, that the parties that we thought we could put our faith into were going to help us. I think that, and that we cannot supplant the dying and with pure inaction. There has to be something that replaces it. And as you're saying, which I think you basically, hinted at, which is like deep in our analysis, read the, Mike Davis, read Lovato, read the people who have written about, struggle here, abroad. Like, let's learn, use this moment to learn. We can replace the blind faith. I mean, it is hard because people are obviously overworked and not making ends meet and are stressed and are isolated from one another. We have to overcome
both parties killed the unions for a reason, So
I don't think the unions are dead, though. I live in Las Vegas.
They're coming back, but I'm just saying it was a project by both parties.
It's a powerful force in Las Vegas, and they're at the front line of challenging what's known as the attention economy. Unbeknownst to many, I'm actually, for my next book, this is what I'm writing about, is among other, I'm writing about this bird, but in my research, I'm looking into this thing called the attention economy, where it's at the core of the economics in the world now, where
it's right here.
Attention, in politics, like we're talking about, in consumption, your attention is one of the primary commodities. It's the gold that has made Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, all these right-wing extremist billionaires rich. So that economy was actually, a part of it was born in Las Vegas, where your attention in the casino was shaped by the furniture, by the rugs, by the lack of windows,
by the free drinks.
So we have to so the culinary union's challenging and having some success to limit the advance of the attention economy as it affects workers there. So we have to kind of upgrade our workers' movements for the digital age, using the tools when necessary, but also being wary of their noxious effects in our culture and on our kids, etc. But we need to.
I mean, I'm thinking of. Yeah, and I'm even thinking of like people like tech workers who you wouldn't necessarily put in the working class, but are so pivotal to, I mean, some people who are like work in for Facebook are like, I don't let my kids go on this thing. This thing is poison, this thing is evil. And last week we had Paul Bigger on, who talked about, using like coders who actually creating technology for Palestine, to support Palestine protesters, to support, people who are being targeted and all this. And I think we're going to need even more of that. So it's like, if we can harness all of this, the technology and our collective power, it's exciting times, but it is daunting. And it does feel like it's like we are starting. I know we're not starting from scratch, but it does feel like that, especially in the ways that some, not just liberal media pundits, but also, nonprofit organizations and others are like, well, maybe we can work with Donald Trump. I mean, doing the Van Jones thing, like, I'm going to work with him to pass a fucking, piece of legislation that affects like 200 people. Like, you know what I mean? And then I'm going to give Donald Trump a win. I'm going to give this motherfucker a win to lord over everybody and be like, look, I did something for Black people. I did something for the criminal justice system. No, I don't think so. I think non-compliance in this time is really critical to get right. Who the fuck side are you on? Non-compliance is really, really pivotal.
Non-compliance, and actually I'm a writer, so I again, there's another Jedi knowledge, is writing and words. We're in the age where the philosopher Jacques Ellul called, in the 60s, the age of the humiliation of the word by the image. So we need to operate in these spaces like what you've done with the Bituation Room and other parts of your trajectory. We have to operate in spaces where people are. I'm not abandoning the word. I do believe there's a place for the word more than ever in terms of naming things. We have to get out of the frames, I think, of the bipartisan consensus on fascism in things like Palestine, immigration, neoliberal economics, militarism, military budgets. I mean, those are some of the pillars and expressions of a fascistic national and global order.
Yeah.
So, by the same token, I think the movement in support of the people of Palestine previews, the challenges, but also the potential that we see when that movement rose up powerfully and is still pushing the envelope. When did you ever imagine a head of the Israeli state being justly called a war criminal who necessitates arrest in any country that's a signatory to the ICC covenant? I'd never imagined that in my lifetime.
I never imagined the movement that we've seen in the last year. I mean, and I do think you're absolutely right. And I think that another pivotal piece of that fascism is the ways that, the liberal institutions of these universities walked their students into the hands of the police and allowed them to be brutalized by mobs, and have thrown them under the bus, called them anti-Semitic.
Acted morally superior to them while doing it.
100%. And so speaking of crisis of legitimacy, the idea that like these institutions were a safeguard, supporting intellectualism in a time of rampant anti-intellectualism, supporting, diversity and equity and inclusion truly at a time when that's being attacked. And then, we found the line, and the line is Palestine, and that was like, that's like, I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to a young person who's learning all about, again, ethnic cleansing, genocide, history, anything, story of repression in Central America. Like, that seems like a no-brainer. So to find the line here, I think is a huge wake-up call to the younger generations. But
Absolutely.
That being said,
I'm glad you said that, because one of the things I learned from living under, being hunted down by, persecuted, attempted to be killed by a military dictatorship, one of the things I learned was that you need to close the spaces of hopelessness within yourself and in your social movement. Hopelessness serves national security interests. Never forget that. It's constructed. The disarming of your consciousness is your own responsibility when you allow the state to whisper in your ear, to sing its siren song in your heart. It's bullshit at its
to be
core.
Afraid of your neighbor.
And so, I take my lead from having, my book covers, my Unforgetting covers what I call I go into all these different underworlds, guerrilla underworlds, gang underworlds, the underworlds of our families and our family secrets, the underworlds of the states and their death squads. And I'm talking about the United States and El Salvadoran state. And, I learned the necessity of keeping a steady state of consciousness. If you give in to grief and dismay, I grieve, don't get me wrong. I have family. I helped raise a young boy who's now a young man, whose future I'm trying to figure out how I contribute to. I have family. I have a partner that I love, and I have family, and I have a lot, and I grieve for all of us, and I grieve deeply. But I didn't grieve on November 5th. I've been grieving for my entire adult life, because I'm umbilically tied to planet Earth that has been continuing the cycles of genocide, apocalypse for centuries. And so, I don't know. Just to put things in context, I have a dark side. I mean, shit, I've been through some stuff, but I don't give myself too much space for dismay after seeing like mass graves across the entire continent. After listening to those grieving mothers, seeing those kids, talking to them, going to war, dealing with dictatorship, policing in this. I mean, in my 61 years, I've been through some things, and I don't have the luxury of hopelessness. I think hopelessness, even if it feels real to you, is a luxury for those of us in the North. In the global South, I know a lot of people that have lived far worse things than what we're seeing,
Yeah.
who don't have that luxury either. And I take my lead from indigenous people who I'm writing about right now, who I've been visiting across the continent for my next book, which is about a bird and about my mom.
A bird and your mom. I love it. Lovato, thank you so much for bringing just so much knowledge, but also depth and heart, and doing some Greek mythology references that I didn't understand. And you're wonderful, and everyone really read the book. Unforgetting, a memoir of family migration, gangs, and revolution in the Americas. And I'm so excited for your next book. You have to come back when it is out. Thank you. Take good care. And we got now. I feel like we got to go back into reality.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's the best. I mean, and that's the thing about radicals and revolutionaries is like, you know, we can sound pessimistic, but I feel like the people that I look to the most are people like Roberto, who are incredibly optimistic and have a lot of hope and faith.
Yeah.
And
you can be angry.
Exactly. Or you can have critiques, like just because we are like the Democratic Party is on death's door, fuck it.
That's
forever.
not a bad thing.
That's right. It doesn't mean we're not hopeful about other things. We're just not necessarily
welcome
hopeful,
a new party.
right. About, you know, and I think, you know, I mean, I'm still piecing together how I feel going forward. You know, Bernie Sanders had a very strongly worded like email that he sent out to all of his followers over the weekend that was effectively like the Democratic Party is, you know, has lost and there's no faith anymore in them. But he's stopped short of saying that's why I'm starting, you know,
of course,
something else. And
it's not going to be up to him to start it. It's not going to be a top down thing.
I agree with that. 100%. Totally. No. You're 100% right.
And like so many people in this country think voting once every 4 years is it.
Yeah. I know.
And like they tie their entire emotional state to one day every 4 years, which seems bizarre.
And the other thing is like if the same like lanyard monkey fucking like campaign grifters would dedicate their lives to like actually making change, we could get shit done, because it's not that everyone has to get involved in some organization tomorrow. It's that a small percentage of people have to do it, and they have to do it with intention and commitment. And it's like, you know,
and not as just a way into access and money.
Totally. Again, my Venmo is TBR-live. If you got any of that Harris money, the 1.5 billion, buy tickets to see James Fritz at the Lincoln Lodge.
It'll have politics in it.
If you're still getting paid from the Harris campaign, you don't got to say it. Just go see James Fritz.
Get rid of that filthy money. You know,
get rid of that money. You don't need it burning a hole in your pocket. Go see James in Chicago. There's one more story that I do want to get into. And it is the Department of Government Efficiency. Yes. This is, what'd you say?
Cope.
This is the Doge department. Get it?
Get it? It's a dog.
It's a dog. It's a cryptocurrency. It's the thing. It's something that's going to lose you your life savings. But this is a new department created. Obviously, Trump is floating this. That's what they're going to create, the Department of Doge. It will try to go after wasteful spending, and it is going to be headed by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Not headed because they're not part of the government.
No,
it's
made up just like Doge.
It is made up, but it will be overseen by Marjorie Greene and Senator Joni Ernst, who we're going to look into in a little bit. But so
that sounds like the worst office porn parody I've ever heard of.
God. Joni Ernst is like, everything out of her mouth is like a weird sexual innuendo.
And NTG just overlooking Elon and Vivek. Get to work, boy. I'm sorry.
I know. Just like, as she's like doing her little CrossFit influencer stuff in the corner.
Who's the dumbest?
they're all, first of all, I feel like they're all going to rely on the brown kid. They're all going to be like, let Vivek do it.
Yeah, and he'll
Let
gladly
Vivek
do all the work. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just copy off of him. You're smart. Aren't you Asian or whatever?
You want to get invited to the party, right? Do our homework. Yeah.
Exactly. So according to Musk, he's trying to get rid of $2 trillion in federal budget spending. That will, and again, this is out of 6.75 trillion in total federal spending. That's it's a fucking almost a third.
Yeah.
Which of course, according to the Times, includes such trifles as mandatory interest payments on existing public debt, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, National Defense, and 1,000 other programs and services, most of which have enjoyed bipartisan support for decades. While he has argued that deep state bureaucrats soak up most of the excess spending, in reality, the total government wages and salaries amount to $800 billion. Not that much.
Yeah.
But they wrote an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal that I won't subject everyone to, but they did lay out their vision for cheerfully blowing up the public sector, as this says. Musk and Ramaswamy suggested that Trump might be able to unilaterally implement their recommendations via illegal means of presidential impoundment, i.e. cancellation of congressionally approved appropriated spending, a trick that contributed to Richard Nixon's downfall when he tried it, which I do feel like we are living in a, like, what if Nixon got away with it reality?
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't this feel like Nixon was like rolling in his grave, like so mad. There's so many bubbles.
It's like if Nixon had less integrity.
Right, exactly.
If he was worse on race.
Right, if he resigned in shame, you know?
Yeah. I heard though that like they're not going to defund any department that pays to get verified, so you can survive this.
Any department that wants to just buy a blue check mark, will give you a special little gray check mark. In fact,
it's so insane what the richest man in the world is concerned with. It's like a child.
It is a child.
He cares about memes.
What? Yes, memes and gutting. Gutting all like probably maybe their way into gutting Medicare and Medicaid. But here's
he spends more time on memes than he does any of this.
Sure, but that's the brown guy's job. Okay, I do the memes. He does the math.
He's the DJ, I'm the rapper. Right.
Exactly. So here's Marjorie Greene on what she wants to cut as head of Doge.
Tell us what you see as the most government waste.
It's all over. Every single government department, program, grant programs, contracts, it is everywhere. And so when we look into a deep dive into this massive problem that's caused America to be $36 trillion in debt, we're going to have to go into all kinds of buckets. And that's how I'll be separating things on the Oversight Subcommittee on Doge. We'll be looking at everything from government-funded media programs like NPR that spread nothing but Democrat propaganda. We'll be going into grant programs that fund things like sex apps in Malaysia, toilets in Africa, all kinds of programs that don't help the American people. I want to talk to the people at the Pentagon and ask them why they can't find billions of dollars every single year and why they fail their audit. But not just that.
Israel, Israel. That's why we can't find billions of dollars.
No, it's toilets.
It's definitely Malaysian sex apps. Like, what are we talking about? Apparently the toilets thing is maybe like funding, like any kind of commitment to like sanitation or like plumbing in the global south, you know, like.
Right. MAGA's just obsessed with toilets. They always have.
Yeah, they're like, and are any trans people using those toilets? Right. That's where they're at. So
gold toilets. Yeah.
What's so funny about this, like, you're like, you know, there will immediately be a no-go zone, which is obviously no SpaceX contracts. You can't touch those.
Sure.
You definitely can't touch any Pentagon spending unless you want to redirect it to the southern border, but the money amount has to be the same.
Yeah.
You could go after Social Security and Medicare. The VA? Fuck the VA, man. Like, you privatize the shit out of that.
Yeah, we love our troops. We never said we would give them anything. Love is, you can't put a price on love.
You really can't. You know, and why don't they love us back? You know, they should just, you know, work for the healthcare like everybody else.
Well,
Yeah, so that's what they're doing. Obviously, they are doing this Argentine model. Ramaswamy suggesting that he wants to, use the radical austerity programs of Javier Milei that again have pushed the country into recession and doubled the poverty rates there. But they're planning on
you're gonna have to
layoffs.
suffer for a little minute, like Elon said. Remember when he
Right.
said that? Yeah.
And once all the trans fentanyl distributing, cat and dog eating
Yeah.
illegals are gone,
We're all gonna be rich.
the white people can have everything.
That's right.
I mean, this is
We'll
true.
make the toilets flush on time.
This is exactly but that's what like Javier Milei said about Argentina. He was like,
Right.
Things are going to be bad. Like things are going to really suck, but eventually it's going to be good. And you're like, what's the time frame on that?
Yeah, right. But you're guaranteeing the suck part?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Sign me up.
I guarantee
That's
it's gonna
definitely
suck.
better than voting for a woman. JK. But you know what? It really it is sad. You're just like, there is a lib part of me that really wanted Kamala. I was just gonna
They could run it
so
like
lib.
They could run it like California, where we voted to keep slavery and do away and not raise minimum wage
Exactly.
or have
And
rent
look at how
control
good everything's here.
and
We
give
have
all our money to cops and
Exactly. Exactly. No, don't get me started on California. I swear to God, we need a talking to. California needs to
this is where a third party needs to be born
1,000,000%.
in a powerful state.
Oh, by the way, Kamala Harris is considering running for governor.
Sure, consider it. Welcome the next Republican governor of California.
No, because that actually is kind of an opening. Right? Like Kamala Harris runs, there's a third party run.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
We don't have ranked choice, I believe, in the gubernatorial race, but we could probably easily implement that. And
well, it
that
is a
way,
woman running for office, so Schiff will probably run for it just to
fuck Adam Schiff, I swear to God.
Damn.
I briefly was not in a fuck Adam Schiff moment, but after genocide, now I'm fuck Adam Schiff. But anyway, so this is like Joni Ernst, again, because she can only talk in innuendo. She's going to be the head of the Senate. She's going to be the senator that's in charge of overseeing Doge. She wants to make the federal establishment, quote, squeal through trillions of dollars in cuts. She pointed to federal allocations to infrastructure projects such as, here we go, California's high-speed rail project as examples of ways. Bitch, that's fine. Fuck you. We don't need you. First of all, we grow lots of food here. So when your tomatoes cost like $6 for 2, don't come fucking asking us, because we're going to redirect our tomato money into our high-speed rail as per our socialist governor.
But they'll only build the high-speed rail to transport homeless people, which has been criminalized, into prison labor. They'll just move them into camps to fight wildfires for a penny.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, that's Newsom's goal. Newsom's like, with the new high-speed rail, we can more easily take apart the tent cities. Just like, what the fuck?
God.
All the way into Fresno. Remember how it wasn't going to go to LA?
I love that. Yeah.
Like end of the line here. But anyway, I mean, look, Gavin Newsom is a POS, but he is going to like Biden right now and is like, yo, what are we like? We're in the crosshairs over here. So what the fuck?
Yeah.
So there's that. Anyway, back to making him squeal.
That face should be the screenshot.
That's my new. I know. Ernst also accused federal workers of favoring remote work because they work only maybe 10 hours a week. Research suggests that return to office mandates don't make businesses more productive. So, James, this is the other thing that Elon Musk says will make us more productive is by making all workers go, I'm assuming primarily federal employees, but everybody going to work in person. And I'm like, that's fine. As long as Congress also can't take these recesses.
No. They're tired. They need 8 weeks off right now.
Yeah. Exactly. Like when
Elon just wants people in the office because he's the unfunniest motherfucker who ever lived. And
right.
when they weren't coming into office, no one was laughing at his horrible jokes.
Yeah, no, he really
I've
is
worked
the
for those
David
kind of
Brent.
bosses.
Yeah. Or is it David Brent? And yeah, he's the David Brent of bosses. Just like the black guy laughed. Right? Oh God. Anyway, so that's making him squeal. Again, Joni Ernst, you'll like this. You remember, she's like used to be like a hog farmer, or like she was raised on raw milk. I mean, look at her face. But like she loves to make these analogies of like, I'm gonna cut what is it? The pork and what is the pig bear? What is the
Pork
line
barrel.
for pork barrel, right?
Yeah,
or like all the spending, and I'm gonna make them squeal because I used to castrate hogs down on the farm. And you're like,
take the pork barrel to the cracker barrel.
Yeah, why are you talking about pig dicks? Anyway, on pig dicks, let's I won't even talk about Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna's like, oh, maybe this is good. Shut up.
Oh, that
dude.
guy's always maybe this is good. That's
He's the maybe this is good guy. And you're like, no, it's not good. Let's talk about it, James. Look, I know you have strong feelings about our president, Joe Biden. And honestly, say what you will. I think he's done a great job. I think he really tried. I mean, I think look.
Oh, listen.
I think it's ageist. I think it's ageist to suggest that he, basically walked us down the aisle back into Trump's arms. I mean, he was a transitional president if you think about him transitioning us from one Trump administration to the next. So in that way, he did fulfill his promise. But I want to talk about this lame duck.
Yeah, okay.
Because he's a lame duck now, and he's doing things like this. So that is the sound of Joe Biden walking into the jungle.
I thought that was the new Indiana Jones. It's like, quit making him act in these things.
So Joe Biden, that was him visiting the Amazon. Cool, I guess. But also Butcher Biden keeps on being terrible. And but I want to know, I think he could turn this around. I think he could make naysayers like us actually like him by, in his last 2 months in office, month and a half, doing some criming. That's right. This is Biden crime family. So James, you know that our Supreme Court has granted total immunity for presidents who are doing presidential acts
Yes.
And now some would say this is mostly just directed at Donald Trump because most of them were handpicked by Donald Trump. But I contend
That's cynical.
That's totally. I contend that any president, namely the one we have now, could and should do some illegal things to help everyone in the final days in office. So I'm wondering, do you have any thoughts about what Biden could do to maybe turn this around for you, for him, for the country before we fully are into another Trump presidency?
Well, I mean, I think technically in some states, suicide is still illegal. So we could do that. I'm not a fan. I'm not
assisted.
Fan.
No, look, everything my mind goes to is morbid and illegal and definitely lots of crimes that probably should not be said out loud on this show.
Right.
Certainly not on this platform.
This feels like a trap for me, actually.
But I do think, I do think it is a trap for you. It's a trap for both of us. This was actually like my new American Prospect column is exactly this. I think you should do things like printing a bunch of money.
Oh, yeah.
And then taking Air Force One and dumping the money on top of, I think, like abortion clinics, basically anyone providing like actual health care.
Start performing them in Texas if he really wants to break the law.
I think he should start performing them in Texas 100%.
And being like really torn up about it.
Can you imagine
Like,
Biden? Can you imagine Biden is the one giving you like an emergency DNC and is like, listen, Jack, and you're like, God damn it.
You're right. That's a bad idea.
Could be but you know, Dr. Jill, I thought, isn't she
Right.
a doctor?
Yeah.
Dr. Jill can fucking put her money where her mouth is. I think he should. What else? I mean, yeah. So I do think the printing of money. I do think that vest wear does look good on him, and he should maybe just like put on a vest, maybe strap on a vest, if you will. And
interesting. Like a loud vest, like one with a lot of
yeah,
pizzazz.
one that's just like very loud, like visually loud. You know, like like an ugly Christmas sweater, an ugly
Really
holiday
ugly.
sweater, but that goes boom.
It's Christmas. Boom.
Because boom, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
And you know,
Here comes Santa Claus.
Here comes Santa Claus. And just give, you know, and Santa loves to hug, you know, and Santa gives great hugs. And so just, you know, hug with your Christmas vest.
With your whole body. Hug with your whole body.
Hug with your body. That's, I mean, truly, he could do that. And it would, I mean, instant martyr / hero.
Sure. Hero. Yeah. I have one other minor one. It might be a little mean. And I'm not sure how illegal it is, but he could like unilaterally kick Anna Kasparian out of her HOA. Goodbye. That's for the real heads.
That's for the real heads, man. If you want more of that, my bonus episode for last week. No, man, it's tough. You know, every morning I wake up and I'm like, you know what?
Sorry.
I can deal with TYT. I can deal with it today. I can do it. And every afternoon I'm like, God damn it. Fuck everything. Like it's really bad. But I'm actually going to probably get both of them on the show at separate points, James, and we might do some interviews. So
great.
We might do some choice.
Everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to hear them out.
I'm a happy warrior.
Warrior or warrior? I mean, JB Pritzker said he's a happy warrior. Is that what this was in reference to? You think Pritzker is going to come to your show?
Boy, huh?
You think Pritzker is going to come to your? I'll
comp him.
Motherfucking Pritzker better buy the whole thing out, dude.
He's a Billy, right?
He's a Billy. But yeah, God, there's so much to say about that. But I think Biden could do a lot. I think he could preemptively pardon us to do our own call it, I don't know, what day do we want to pick? I mean, it could be the 20th.
Oh, you know what he could do? He could make us all presidents for a day on every President's Day, and then whatever we do is legal.
Ooh, I love this. Every President's Day is like the day of the purge where there are no crimes and we can all go buck wild.
President's Day should be the purge day.
It should be.
Apt, yeah.
Or I mean, but only for specific people. Like I think it should be like only Black women
or guest of this show, and
yeah. Or like opposite day. Is opposite day a national holiday? It should be if it's not.
We're serious people.
It's just like white slavery day, and like it's just like what if?
Oh, you mean college applications day?
Anyway, food for thought, Joe. Take it or leave it. You could also
say hi to your buddy Strom Thurmond soon.
My god. You could also just release like Commander Biden. Like you could sit Commander Biden on people and you can't be held accountable.
Commander Biden has been very silent lately, and I find that he wants to work with Trump, I heard.
He's like, let's hear him out.
Fight partisanship.
He's a real populist. Ruh-roh. He's not. Ruh-roh, I'm in jail.
RFK might do some good things.
Ruh-roh, I'm in a gulag.
Uh-oh, I'm strapped to the roof of a Kennedy's car.
If you are an animal and you're listening to this podcast, definitely stay away from this administration. If you're like a brown bear, if you're like a bear cub, if you're a whale, if you are like any kind of cattle, I know it seems like this administration is kind to you, but they're very much not. If you're a moodang, stay away.
What about squirrel?
Oh, if you're a squirrel, you can basically be chief of staff. Like if you this applies to all animals except for squirrels, because squirrels, if a if a squirrel, look, if you're listening to my voice and you're a squirrel, go up to Elon, say hi, like wink at him, like you know how squirrels do, and he will straight up he will kick Vivek Ramaswamy out, and you will be the head of Doge. Oh my God, James Fritz, you're the best. Everybody, go see him December 6th. That's a Friday. 2 shows, 2 opportunities to see him.
Yeah, I was underselling it before. It's going to be great.
It's going to be so fun. You're going to be I'm like really, yes, I love Chicago. I love the Lincoln Lodge. If the people that came out to see Matt and I are any indication, first of all, I know it's going to sell out and I know it's going to be fucking fun as shit. So click, the link is in the bio, in the description, wherever you're watching this. And James, where can people follow you also?
Oh, I'm on, don't want to plug X, I guess, and Twitter anymore. Blue Sky.
Yeah,
I'm on Instagram at Fritz is Dead. Blue Sky is like james.fritz. And my website's jamesfritzcomic.com. If you're in LA tonight, I got a spot at my buddy Babs Gray and Ashley Ray's show.
Oh,
the store.
At the Comedy Store. Oh my gosh. Yeah, head out.
The great Deborah DiGiovanni's on that too. So I'd go just for her.
All right, go to the Comedy Store tonight if you're listening and you're here in LA and you want something to do to go see James. Thank you so much, James. Take good care. We'll see you next time. And thank you all. What a show. What a show. And thanks everyone for first of all, Camperman 5000 says, welcome to the Fritzuation room. And I love that. Also, Benjamin Morrill, thank you for a super chat, says, until I'm thrown in jail or killed for saying it, free Palestine and the occupation. If not now, when? Mucho amor, hermana. Right back at you. Benjamin Morrill also says, I've never felt more like your show's artwork. Thank you. I was thinking of changing it, but I do feel like the exasperated lady sort of is us all these days. Robert says, this Trump administration will be the fuse that sets off the powder keg. I think so. I hope so. Graham Farm says, start growing your own food, y'all. See, that's another thing we do have to do. And not in an RFK Jr. way, but just in a tomatoes are going to be expensive. Mike Ridgefield thinks that the Orange Man Bad song should be our national anthem, I believe. Robert says the Democrats are the party of greedy billionaires. Republicans are the party of insane greedy billionaires. That's true. There's a slight difference, but pretty much the same billionaires. Although we're going to be talking more about Silicon Valley and which side they've decided to play for, because all bets are off. Like Silicon Valley, no longer liberal. It's like, late stage capitalism means sides have to be chosen. And Silicon Valley is going to choose the side of the winning class war. They're going to choose us out of the winning class war, and that is not our side. Daniel Lee said, Mike Davis is required reading. I know. City of Quartz, I need a reading group for that, because I read like a paragraph and I'm like, I'm so dumb. I can't understand this. I think I actually need a college level class to explain that book to me. Cassandra Capranica says, if we boycott together, we can break even the most powerful. Twitter is going down next. Let's go. I 100% agree. I think boycott is a huge way that we can affect change, in addition to union organizing. But boycott is something we can do with our dollars and our time and our attentions, as Roberto was saying. Rachel Atwood, see Sheinbaum's response to Trump re fentanyl. Yes. Claudia Sheinbaum, president of Mexico, basically clapped back at Donald Trump and was like, hey, y'all send a bunch of guns down to Mexico and beyond. So this is on you. We'll get into that tomorrow as we get into a little bit about Brazil as well. Childless Cat Mama PA says, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the senator for identifying government waste, took a PPP loan out and was forgiven for it. Talk about government waste. Absolutely. You think anyone's going to go after, like, what is it? Khloe Kardashian's fucking PPP loan for her dumbass, clothing company? No. There were literally militias who stormed the Capitol on January 6th who got PPP loans. Meanwhile, you think my dumbass was like, let me get a PPP loan for Habituation Room? No, I didn't think about it. And I probably wouldn't have had the wherewithal to get one, God damn it. Hit me up if you want to be my accountant. The instructor says Black and Latino Trump voters, FA, and getting ready, FO. You just voted against your own interests that you were complaining about. Thank you for your super chat, instructor. However, we are not in divide the working class mode right now. So I don't, when I play blame games, I blame up. Blaming down or blaming side to side is not always productive. But I feel you. I feel your energy. I understand what you're saying. Count One says Moodang must be protected. Indeed. Moodang's still at it, still wet and angry. And I think we all need to take it. We all need to be, number one, wetter and angrier. And I mean it on all senses of the word. Angry, that is. BPW says, I was fortunate enough to have Mike Davis as an instructor of LA history at CalArts in 93. Wonderful, clarissimo. I'm so jealous of you. And with that, hey, I'm thanking all the new patrons at $10 or more with the fart song, as well as members, as well as Twitch folks. To Tracy Ava and to Zen Rasta Wookie. I love that name. James is listening to this and he says it's his favorite song. I know. It's pretty good. Thank you to Don Whitehead for becoming a member on YouTube. To Daryl McDonough also becoming a new member, and Benjamin giving out a gift sub. Thank you so much. And What Did I Serve For gave out 5 Habituation Room memberships. What Did I Serve For? Are you U.S. combat? Are you a vet? Are you the vet? You're great. But I feel like I can tell by your name that. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you to Looney Tunes 9000 for resubscribing over on Twitch. Pendulous Dragon also for subscribing with Prime. Omega Shenron Dragon, 13 months strong, resubscribes at 13 months baby, hot off the heels of my firstborn turning 10. Fran's show being one of my main favorites in the times of people showing their turncoat tendencies. Fran stays eternal, or however the quote goes. Love it here. Love Fran and her team, her beautiful family. I miss seeing the cat around the stream. That's true. We have not had Chitty. If she was next to me, I'd bring her out, but we haven't had Chitty. Maybe I'll get her tomorrow. That's so nice of you, Omega Shenron Dragon. Happy birthday to your 10-year-old. Thank you so much for your support. Yes, never a turncoat and always broke because of it. Thank you to Paige Omek, to Maximilian Inhofe, to Andy Vasoyan for their help on this show. And remember to fight the power, to fuck the patriarchy, to free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it, be about it. Bye-bye.